All right, it is Wuzi Tuesday, April 9th, and it is a Wuzi Tuesday indeed, the day after the eclipse. I was just walking with my neighbors while we were walking my dog and our toddler, and everyone mentioned how they're just like off today. Everyone seems off today, and it's kind of weird. So, anyway, I'm interested to see what today's reading brings because I got fired by a client for the first time today over something so silly, just a small little detail about a plug, which has to be there anyway, the inspection required for it. But in the homeowner's mind, he, of course, is infallible and he is right. Ultimately, though, he did me a huge favor. I'm not saying I prayed about it, but I prayed about it, I thought about it, and I reflected on it, and I kind of universally asked to lighten my load because I've got so much going on, and this happened, and it couldn't be any better timing to free up my plate to focus on more things. So while we are reeling from the wooziness of what's happened, let's dive in. We are in choosing generals, which is chapter 4 again of one of the ancient military texts, the Wuzi. Wu Ki said there were 4 key areas of warfare: morale, geography, intrigue, and fundamentals. The commander must be responsible for his entire force and inspire his troops' morale. The right narrow path, steep slope, or great mountain pass can be held successfully by 10 men against the assault of 1,000. Intrigue involves the sending of spies to cause defections, sallies by auxiliary troops to break up the enemy ranks and thereby sow discord between an enemy ruler and his ministers, and setting the senior and junior levels of an enemy hierarchy against each other. Oh, the senior and junior levels of the hierarchy of the enemy against each other. Making sure that your chariots and their axles and bolts are sturdy, that oars and paddles for the boats are suitable, that the men know their battle formations, and the horses can easily gallop and pursue the enemy. These together constitute the fundamentals of the army. Okay, so these things together, and I think that's what it was with a lot of things. It's these things together which determine the outcome. Too many people can get hyper focused. They can get into a point of disregarding all outside variables and tend to focus on just a few things and bulldoze through with that. And so, like, it's like all of the things, right? So, like, even though every little situation that the client brought up as being an issue was either fixable or on its way to being fixed, but he didn't want to hear it. So, again, all of these little things together come together. And it depends, again, how, in this case, how much you want to blow that out of proportion, even if it's fixable, easily fixable. Okay. Only a soldier who understands these 4 key areas can become a general. However, he must inspire sufficient awe and be a virtuous, humane, and brave man. These qualities will allow him to inspire obedience in his subordinates in the rank and file and fear in the enemy so that victory is assured. Right? Because I mean, just reading Redwall to my toddler at night, you got Clooney the Scourge, and Clooney is this feared leader who leads by fear. You know, he doesn't do anything virtuous or humane. He might be brave, and bravery comes in many forms, but humane and virtuous are not in the repertoire of Clooney the Scourge. And just the same way, being a commander, a leader who inspires his men is more than just being a commander in an army. It's being a leader. It's being a good manager. It's being a good boss. It's being a good person to yourself, to your family. All of these things have to be pervasive throughout all things in your life. A commander whose orders are never disobeyed will receive no challenge from the enemy wherever he goes. For a state to gain such a man is to assure its own strength. To lose him is to assure its decline and destruction. Someone who embodies these qualities is a noble general indeed. And that's what we want to be in our lives. We want to be noble. We want to be virtuous, right? And so, in the situation with the client, I did everything I could to be virtuous, to say, I apologize. Let me make this right. Allow me to make this right. I will pay to fix the mistake. I did everything I could, but still, at the end of the day, he did me a huge solid, a great favor. He doesn't realize it, and he never will unless he somehow stumbles upon this video, which I doubt. Um, but again, April 9th, out of the Daily Stoic. So thank you again, sir. You know who you are. Test Your Impressions by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman. From the very beginning, make it your practice to say to every harsh impression, you are an impression and not at all what you appear to be. Just like today, it's just an impression. It's just him being either like everyone else is and having a bad day after the eclipse, or him just being he chose this outcome. He chose this outcome. There's plenty of solutions to the problem. He chose not to hear. So you are an impression and not at all what you appear to be. Next, examine and test it by the rules you possessed, the first and greatest of which is this: whether it belongs to the things in our control or not in our control, and if the latter, be prepared to respond, it is nothing to me. Epictetus in Curating 1.5. So if it's not in our control, which this wasn't, it is nothing to me. And it was nothing to me. And so that's how it relates to me today. But it during the whole process, I was thankful for these readings, for these Art of War teachings, for these Daily Stoic teachings, because, like, even though what could have happened could have been avoided altogether, it still happened almost by design, right? Because number one, I prayed for an outcome that the solution was to lighten my workload because I've got too many projects, too many people needing something from me, and this one now was starting to get overcomplicated. And being out of my control and immediately realizing that moment that there's nothing more I can do, I chose not to get upset with the client on the phone. I said, just, okay, great. We'll close out the contract as it stands. You don't owe me anything else on it. The payment as is what the final payment will be. And instead of having to backfill his trench and make this right and pay even more money to fix my mistake, now I'm saving quite a bit of money. It is nothing to me. And I reflected on these teachings so many times and how it was nothing. Where is the good in this? The first thing I looked for was, what is the good in this? There's no need to hang on it and to let it ruin my evening or my week. To say that this is the first time I've been fired says more about him than it does about me. In an overly quantified world of policies and processes, some are swinging back in the other direction. Bold leaders will trust their gut. A spiritual guru will say it's important to let your body guide you. A friend trying to help us with a difficult decision might ask you, what feels right here? Quotes. These approaches to decision making contradict voluminous case studies in which people's instincts have led them right into trouble. Right? So, instincts to take a completely different approach. Trading, my day trading, the last 2 days the last 3 days, even since Friday, have been, absolutely terrible. Friday, I thought I knew what was going to happen. I had these instincts, right? And it led me right into trouble. Our senses are wrong all the time. As animals subjected to the slow force of evolution, we have developed all sorts of heuristics, biases, and emotional responses that might have worked well on the savannah, but are totally counterproductive in today's world. Part of Stoicism is cultivating the awareness that allows you to step back and analyze your own senses, question their accuracy, and proceed only with the positive and constructive ones. Sure, it's tempting to throw discipline and order to the wind and go with what feels right, but if our many youthful regrets are any indication, what feels right now doesn't always stand up well over time. Hold your senses suspect. Again, trust, but always verify. So, as a leader in an electric company, a company that is electronically inclined, trust but always verify. I always have to trust that my guys are going to do the right thing and do it to the best of their ability. But at the end of the day, I always have to verify, whether that be by pulling permits, asking for inspections, or doing things that are just above and beyond the basic requirement in order to verify that things are done correctly. And so I love that. I love the way that ended, and I love the continued perspective that the Stoic continues to provide, that if it's not in my control, then it is nothing